certifications themselves don't matter. Like as a paper, nothing matters. And I do see this tendency nowadays to look for, I don't know, a certain course that gives you a certification actually. And that's not really the criteria that anyone should be looking at.
Let's go. All right. Hello, Osama.
Hey there.
Thank you for being here. Osama is an English teacher. It's hard to even put it into a sentence who he is, so I'll let him introduce himself. Who are you, sir?
Well, hi there. I'm an English teacher and I love cats. That's the main point, I guess. I've been teaching English for, oh God, oh no, it's gonna be 10 years next year. Scratch that, just like for a while. And I know maybe I am a bit younger to be like that, but the thing is, I started really early on. We had this kind of thing in my country where if you are one of the top students, you actually can start teaching a little bit earlier. So I started with that and it just accumulated, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. So how old were you when you started?
My very first lesson, it was like informal tutoring, but it was my first and I was, I guess, 19.
19. Wow, amazing. Because if I could go back in time and start on iTalki during university years, I honestly would. I've spoken with a few teachers about that actually, about how, God, I wish I knew about iTalki earlier, but we'll talk all about that today. There's a lot I want to talk about. So first of all, the fact that you're from Syria, you live in Turkey. So maybe could you walk us through your teaching experience and the different jobs you've had?
Sure. So actually the very first thing that I started when it comes to teaching, it might sound a bit weird, but although a lot of people think that when you go to the more beginnery levels, it's actually easier, it's much, much harder. My very first experience was actually tutoring a lot of people from my college who are studying English language and literature like me. So like things related to language like linguistics, applied linguistics, teaching methodology, phonetics, stuff like that. And it became a kind of a mini business at the start, just like as a college student, you know, to get my pocket money from here and there. But then I started working with these language centers back in my city, and it just boomed from there, I guess. And to be honest, this did affect my GPA a bit because for the later years in my college life, for example, I guess in my senior year and my junior year, I only attended the exams. I didn't even attend the classes, unfortunately. Well, I mean, that tells you all what you need to know of how much it affects your professionalism to actually study at university nowadays. So yeah. And in 2016, unfortunately, for a lot of unforeseen circumstance back in Syria, I had to relocate to Turkey here and start over. But luckily, I mean, the amount of work that I had done already, it did give me a huge boost to just get a job very, very fast. Later on, a little bit of a more well-paid job later on. And then I started with this academy in my city. I don't think it would be a good idea to just say the name, but yeah, a very well-respected academy here in the city I reside in, and stayed there for like 4 years. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, although I was still, you know, part and parcel with the academy, I was like, you know, online teaching is, you know, booming, and I am kind of tech savvy, and I wanted for a while to, you know, go online as well. So I started going on like in parallel with my academy work and online, be it iTalki or even other places as well. And here we are now. I am not 1 year, almost a year now, where I am a full freelance online teacher.
Happy days. Happy anniversary. That's great.
Thank you.
One thing I could just say from speaking to you so far, even before this interview, and just looking at your profile, this is kind of an awkward compliment, but you're freaking funny. You have a great humor, a great sense of humor, and I honestly mean that. And I just want to know how you think this affects your students in class. I don't know if you use any humor in class. I try to, but does this affect your students at all? And also, how were you able to pick up on humor and to use it with such confidence?
Well, I mean, especially when it comes to iTalki. So actually, to be honest, this is one of the few things that where you are in class, it would work much better. However, when it comes to iTalki and you have this diverse students from very, very varied different backgrounds. So for example, so far I had like around 115 students and almost every one of them is from a different country. So that's really tricky to be humorous with them. And I don't want to, promote any stereotypes at all because all people are different in the end. However, there are certain commonalities when it comes to specific cultures. So for example, let's say Asians in general are sometimes more serious than, for example, people who are from the European side. So let's say a Spanish person usually is much more open to talk and be funny with as well. They would even try, to be humorous in our lessons. However, like I said, there's no stereotype here. Different people are different. And as a teacher, if you can use humor, that would be awesome because people like to laugh. If they're having fun, that would be great for you, for the learning outcomes, for everything else. However, the elephant in the room is if the kind of lesson that you have is more serious, you are going to have to be more serious. An IELTS lesson, even the funniest IELTS lesson, is never as funny as a conversational lesson. That's not going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. Just speaking on stereotypes right there, because I've spoken to a few teachers about age as well, and how being an older teacher or a younger teacher could come into come into the picture as well. And I think one thing to keep in mind is that when we do say that there are commonalities for students from specific countries, it could also be dependent on the demographic they are from within that country and the context within that country. Because, for example, 100%. A lot of my older students are actually more tech savvy than younger students. That might not be representative of the world, the world in general. But I think it's one of the reasons for that is because a lot of my students are from, for example, Russia. They are software developers. They are from that specific cohort. And for that reason, even though they are older, they are more experienced. They are tech savvy. They are the people who have created these digital tools, which we use, right? So that's something to put in right there. And also, while we're on that point, I found that a lot of older people do not have a specific disadvantage, even in the world, like in general, compared to younger people in terms of transitioning to online platforms and digital tools. So, we're talking about, stereotypes. We don't want to promote stereotypes, but at the same time, even when we see commonalities, they could be dependent not just on the country, but on the cohort within the country. Does that make sense?
I actually work with another platform. It's called Skyeng, and that one is a little bit different. It's not a marketplace for teachers, but it's like an online school that is online. And most of our students are from Eastern Europe, and my niche is English for IT. Yes. So I was smiling when you said like Russian developers, because it's such a widespread and common, craft there. So yeah, you are right, definitely. And also when it comes to the age to adapt to online teaching and learning. I think you are right, but there's also the other side of it. So if the student is also very young, they would not feel very, I mean, mostly, they would not feel that comfortable to just see on a screen with a talking head, right? So I think it goes both ways. There's a sweet spot, definitely. But yeah, that's how it is.
All right, Skyeng. Now, this is a treat because due to all this stuff happening in Eastern Europe, a lot of my Russian students have been telling me they're moving to Skyeng. This like it was, I had no idea what this platform was before, but a lot of them are going there for IELTS prep and for different classes. So great. Could you give us in a nutshell, like what you do on Skyeng and how it compares to iTalki, please?
Oh, all right. Okay, that opens the can of worms.
Yeah, here we go.
I've been working with Skyeng for around 12 months now, 13 months, I think. Yeah. And so there are a huge variety of departments on Skyeng. So I can only talk about the one that I teach at, because I don't really have a lot of information about the others, because it's like a huge cooperation. Like I really couldn't fathom at first how big it was until my very first all hands meeting. And the meeting, just to be clear, so I work in a department called the premium teachers, which is like the kind of the VIP section. And we are one group of around 14 groups. And our group was around 350 teachers.
Oh.
And I'm saying teachers. So imagine a single teacher would cater for, I don't know, 20 students maybe, because it's all one-on-one, at least for premium teaching. So you cannot really fathom how big they are. I mean, they even have like Sky Education, which is like they do contracts with the institutions to develop curriculums for them. So it's just like a huge operation. So when I first got there, I had, so there was another project called Talks, which is just a mini micro conversation class around 15, or if you like, 30 minutes with a student. It is very similar to instant booking now on iTalki. However, when I actually applied there, I was rejected. And after a couple of hours, I got another email like, hey, Osama, we saw your interview and whatever. We don't want you for Talks. We want you for premium. So I was like, hell yeah.
Okay, I'll take it.
The orientation was quite lengthy because they make sure you are familiar with all the tools they use. They use nothing that is outside of their own ecosystem. So they have their own platform, their own materials, which is usually adapted from other things. But yeah, I mean, hey, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Anyway, so what's nice about it is you have all the opportunities to have all the students. Whatever you want, you can get. If you make yourself available for 100 hours, you can get 100 hours. I don't, but I mean, I don't do that because I have iTalki. But if you want, you can do that. And also they support you so much when it comes to development. So for example, every month, you have around 20 to 25 different workshops about all kinds of things. Teaching English for ESP, English for specific purposes, how to teach IELTS, how to teach TOEFL, how to teach pronunciation, grammar. And even in the last 3 months, we have been taking a Take ET course so we can actually do the test. And they even support you with some perks. If you want to do the IELTS, and you are a teacher there, they will pay for around 25% or 50% if you've been there for a while, because it's around $200. And like, hey, if you get a coupon of $100 off, that would be great, isn't it? So they support you a lot. A lot of them are extremely professional. The people are the sweetest, nicest, friendliest people I have ever worked with. and I've been a while in the business. They are extremely nice. So there's this thing that I have never seen, and they had it, and I was like really wowed by it. We had a psychiatrist, and teachers can book anytime they like to just see a psychiatrist, talk to them free of charge. And that was awesome. And I didn't know that it's a thing that employers do, at least not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely here either, to be honest with you. So this is all on Skyeng, right?
That's all on Skyeng. Now, the downside, if any teacher is listening to this, is that their rate isn't as great as iTalki, for example, because you have to understand they have all of these employees, they have all of this marketing, etc., etc. However, for someone living in Turkey with the exchange rate, it's pretty well. Although it's on the lower end, it is much more than the highest rate a teacher could be paid here in Turkey, face-to-face.
Okay, great. This is because I've been speaking to teachers who teach on Preply, Amazing Talker. Polytripper is a new one I heard about, and now that's kind of a smaller one that somebody told me about, and then Skyeng now. So when I was speaking to people about Preply, they were talking about, like I was talking to them actually about how they have these workshops, these webinars, which I've had a look at it and I thought, wow, those are pretty darn good. So since you spoke about these webinars, workshops, which sound amazing, have there been any that have really stuck out to you as extremely useful for you?
Definitely. So I teach business English, but only in the field of IT, because this is what I know and this is what I'm familiar with. I actually do know a couple of programming languages as well. I tried my hand on app gamification for e-learning and stuff, but any other aspect of business I wasn't aware of. And as you know, as a teacher yourself, although we do know the language, when you are teaching ESP, you do still need to understand at least key concepts in the thing that you are teaching. So I learned so many things when it comes to business management, like Scrum runs and ROIs and what's a KPI, what are metrics and stuff like that. So without that training, I don't think I would have been able to teach. And now whenever I have a student and they're like, I want something for my business or to lead meetings or whatever, and when they just hear me actually use the technical terms, like, oh, so you know about this? I was like, yeah, I do. But again, to be honest, thanks to Skyeng for that, because I didn't have that much of experience with it, at least before. And what's nice about it, that all of the materials on their platform, they call it Vimbox, it coincides with what you have in the workshop as well. Also, there are some things that I found that are, so you could say, okay, so they want you to be developed, especially as a premium teacher, to be able to cater for the needs of your students. Sounds fine. And it's okay, it's a win-win situation in the end. But there are some things that were kind of only for the teachers. Like, for example, I remember there's a program. I didn't go through it because, I've already been there, to teach yourself IELTS in order to prepare yourself to teach IELTS. So, be familiar with the program, what are the strategies used, what kind of questions you might face, etc. And this, although, for example, for me, I had to teach IELTS for Skyeng as well. But for other teachers, that might boost them as an IELTS expert as well. But it seemed like it's more for the teacher than the company itself. So if you are a green novice teacher, I think Skyeng would be an amazing opportunity, not just because of the rate itself or whatever, friendly environment, nice people in general, and the experience. However, after the situation that we all hopefully aware of, it's getting a little bit dire because of the exchange rate. And it is something, to think about, because they do not, at least in the past, they did not write contracts with you in dollars, but it's in rubles. However, they did pivot to dollars now. So if you go on their website and apply and whatever, it will be in dollars. And hopefully everything will be fine. And the CEO even promised that even the old teachers will be converted to the dollar system with the old rates, not with the messed up rate that we have now. So hopefully it goes well. Like I said, the people are very nice and usually very responsive. There's a whole department called Teachers Care. So whatever you need, you can talk to them. Even like I had a student who wanted English for aviation. I was like, oh my, I have no idea what to do with this. So I just contacted one of the methodologists, this is what they call them. And actually she provided me with a lot of things. And like from different kinds of books, she prepared some worksheets for me. And like, I understand why their rate is lower than iTalki, for example, because you're doing all the work there, right? But on Skyeng, there is literally place on their on their platform. You can see it as a teacher, but the student doesn't see it. It's just like, here, you can say this to the student. Here, you can say this.
Damn.
So yeah, it's pretty relaxed, I guess, I'd say.
Yeah. So right now I'm in my master's program, and I'm in the second semester in applied linguistics. And one of our three courses is ESP, actually. And having in some institutions, they will actually have a language specialist and a content specialist working together. I've never experienced that. Yeah, but online, a lot of platforms, it seems like, don't give that degree of support, at least to at least get you thinking of these things. And I think this is really important, because one thing I've tried to hammer home in these interviews is that if you have some sort of background knowledge in another discipline, be it medical fields, tech field, business, whatever it might be, use that. And that might not mean you could teach ESP like right off the bat, but at least you're thinking about it and you could kind of streamline your knowledge.
The late Robin Williams once said, speaking of comedy, I mean, he said that comedy and like quotes, also teaching, it is the only job where you can use everything that you know. So I had a student, I think this is one of the weirdest interaction, and not to say it in a negative way, actually, it was pretty cool. There's this student who is a game developer from Brazil, and he contacted me and he said, like, I really just want exposure. I just want to talk to people about anything. I said, yeah, fine. We can have conversation classes. After a couple of classes, we got to know that we play a lot of similar games. And he said, hey, I'll book the class. Let's just play it together and we'll be talking in English. I said, wow, sure, works for me.
What? That is the coolest thing I've ever heard. That is amazing.
So anything that you know, even if it's not like specialized or whatever, you can definitely use it in your lessons, in whatever you want when it comes to teaching.
At the same time, this could add a little bit of a bias to how we approach certain lessons, like conversational lessons, because for me, having a background in social studies and humanities, sometimes I'll automatically like revert to my foundational knowledge of certain topics. So let's say we're looking at, let's take a business topic like a consumerism or Black Friday, right? And I might kind of look at something from more of a social study, or let's say a psychological standpoint, whereas my students may take a look at it more from like the finance side, right? Because that's their foundational knowledge. So having an idea of these different perspectives could be super useful. I just have to move on because I could talk to you for hours. This is really useful. You are just, let's talk about your certification before we finish up. If you have a couple minutes left, Osama. Yeah. Sure. Awesome. Thank you. So, you are making it rain with these certificates. It is outrageous. And I just want to know if you could explain to us the certificates you have, where you've gotten them from, and which ones have been useful or not useful.
All right. Well, I just want to offset this with certifications themselves don't matter. Like as a paper, nothing matters. And I do see this tendency nowadays to look for, I don't know, a certain course that gives you a certification actually. And that's not really the criteria that anyone should be looking at. The usefulness and the advantage of the training itself should be what you should be looking for. There's this really, really outlandish thing that happened to me specifically. So back in Syria, when the war started, I was a volunteer in the educational department for the UNICEF. And as one of their, let's say, first comers to the department, they did send me to the IECD to get a TOT, a teacher training course. And then I learned a lot from that because at that point I was in my sophomore year. So 2021, something like that. I learned a lot. And then our trainer was so talented. Shout out Ms. Dima, if she can hear this at any point in time. She was amazing. And then I was invited back to an advanced one. So it wasn't like for everyone. And then later on, after I came back, because there were a lot of new teachers, I actually worked in conjunction with a professor. He was actually the dean of the faculty of education at our university and the only professor left in our city that actually had a PhD in teaching methodology. So we had to work together to train teachers. Although I wasn't the main trainer, obviously, but I did have specific roles. And I think that helped a lot. However, when I came to Turkey, this will be really funny because I went and applied for a job. I was accepted, everything was fine. And then I had to go to do some paperwork. And then they were like, oh, but your BA, my bachelor's, is in English language and literature. It's not in English teaching. And there's something that in Syria, we don't have a separate BA. We actually studied literature, linguistics, teaching, and translation. Pretty heavy program. And they don't have that here in Turkey. So I said, no, you need like a CELTA, TEFL, TESOL. I was like, okay, I have a TOT, which should account much more than this. So the director that actually I was talking to, she said, yeah, okay, that works. We applied it and it was rejected. So it turns out that the employee in the higher, I don't know, in the Ministry of Education or whatever, who actually approves this, he just has a set of names of certain things like TEFL, TESOL. Like, oh, yeah. This is none of this. So I said, what should I do? And then the director of the academy, she said like, hey, just go and get one online. Dude, I went online, I paid $20. And I saw this, I don't want to say the name, but I saw this TEFL certification that actually works in Turkey. It was supposed to take like 3-4 months. I just went to the assignments, did them all like in 2 hours, and I got certified the next day. Because I mean, I know this, I know what's PPP. Yeah. But what I'm saying is sometimes the bureaucracy in some places, they dictate these certifications, you see. So back to your question, what were the actual good ones? I'd say the Arizona one was really, really good because it was very expansive. I took it on Coursera, but everything is just like the platform, but everything was provided by Arizona State University. The online education one was very, very useful because although I'm tech savvy, but it gave me so many resources. Like, hey, you want this? Use Kahoot. You want to do this? Use this. And it also mirrored some other things. So for example, feedback. Now, we all know how to do that in class, but I never thought of using emojis as a feedback way with the students, right? Like, hey, if you have a question, do this. I didn't know that. Like some activities like scavenger hunt. We did it all the time on school premises and stuff like that. But how can you do it online? They mirror that and they show you how you can adapt it. And I think that was wonderful. It was really well done. The IELTS specialist one was pretty good. It was really structured. But I say the most important the most important aspect of that certification was the pacing. Because when it comes to IELTS, I mean, I'm sure you know that, you have a lot of misinformation. You know, you have this snake oil. Hey, come on, get ready in 6 hours without it. Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly. Band-Aid in 3 hours.
Dude, like, it's killing me. Believe me, it's killing me. Because, I mean, a student comes, you know, all smiles and they don't know what's going on. And they're like, yeah, I heard you can do it in like a week. It's like, oh, no. Yeah, so it was really good, but I'd say IELTS, it comes really down to studying the materials much more, being analytical. So for example, with you, as someone who studied applied linguistics before, all proficiency tests are the same. It's just the structure that's different. So when you have a reading text, there will be structured questions, you know, local questions, and there will be global questions. Now, how it's going to be asked with, yeah, sure, that's different in TOEFL and IELTS and whatever, but it's the proficiency, it's a placement test. But the problem is, again, misinformation. Like you have a student who comes to you, he says, I want to pass IELTS, and you don't know what that means. Because like, what does that mean? What does it mean to pass a placement test? It's because, you know, I think the biggest rumor, yeah, I'm not going to say lie, rumor that I heard that almost made me angry, almost, is that the first part in the IELTS speaking section is not graded. I was like, why would they even put it there then? There's a rubric for it. There's a rubric for that on the British Council website. Like, I don't know, man. So
I have heard a couple students say that actually. Yeah, damn, it's coming back to me now.
Yeah, man, it's like sometimes the thing is like some students are, you know, very analytical and they understand the business aspect of it. But some people, especially if they don't know you well, you know, first lesson or second lesson, they will be skeptics towards you, right? They're like, is he trying to get me to book more lessons? Can he prepare me like in 3 hours, but he's, you know, stretching it out to make more money? And that like makes it,
exactly. Yeah. And sometimes, and unfortunately, there are teachers who do that, right? There are teachers who will, like, I've had students come to me saying that a teacher gave them like a band 5 or something like that, and they don't have a band 5, and so there are those situations as well. But yeah, it's just like anything, you know, like the bad apples ruin it for the rest of us, right? So unfortunately, it could make students very skeptical, right?
I do have this. Sorry, go ahead.
No, jump in. I'm done.
I do have like a small trick that it worked for me, so maybe it will work for someone else. It's like to always try to have proof of progress. So for example, when you have a new student, even in general English, try to have a permission to just, for example, record part of their speech when they're talking, and then show it to them like after 1 month, or like do something like for reading comprehension, let's say, do a small diagnostic test at the start and keep it, you know, in their folder. I'm sure most teachers do that. They have a small folder for each student. So keep it there and then show them like a before and after thing. And I'm sure at least when they see this and they see the difference, it doesn't really matter what you say because they see it. And it has worked well overall. I think it would be really cool if you do it. And they will feel like, oh my God, something is changing.
100%. Yeah. Like this is wild. Dr. Kodashi, you should literally read lectures. I could listen to you speak about these topics for hours, man. Do you have any, like, first of all, I'll put your link for iTalki in the description. So if anyone wants to learn English, check out Osama's profile down below. If there are any other links for social media, for like podcasts, like I don't know if you do anything else you want to promote, let me know, send it to me.
I'm actually making an Instagram exam preparation meme page. Coming soon.
Yes.
So
I'm gonna follow.
I don't know if it's gonna be up by the time this video will be up. And hopefully, since you like linguistics, I'm going to make some videos about, not on that page, probably on YouTube, hopefully. I don't know if I did have the time. I do have like a couple scripts ready, and it's about like etymology and languages in general, because my long lost dreams was studying computation linguistics actually, but I couldn't finish my master's back home, but I am doing master's now in education online. So hopefully for the PhD. Fingers crossed.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. Man, excellent stuff. Also, speaking of that, those Coursera courses, I'll have to get them off you and put some links down as well. For any professional development that you suggest, that would be brilliant. Thank you so much, Osama.
You are most welcome.
Excellent chat. All right.